All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're diving into the multi-commodity exchange of India,
MCX.
MCX, right?
Yeah.
And using all this great stuff you sent over,
Yeah.
Org's call transcript, press release, investor presentation, financial reports,
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
the whole nine yards, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a publicly listed company, so anyone can be an owner,
Right.
and it's the biggest commodity derivatives exchange in India.
Biggest. Absolutely.
So we're going to figure out what's been going on with them in Q3 of fiscal year 2025.
Yep.
I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
It's a fascinating case, especially with that market share.
Oh, yeah.
Nearly 98% of all commodity derivatives trading.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's massive.
And the performance lately, definitely worth taking a look at.
Absolutely.
57% year-over-year jump in their income from operations
Right.
and options trading.
Yeah.
I think that's playing a big part in this.
Yeah, we'll definitely break that down.
Okay, but first,
Yeah.
the financials.
Yeah, the foundation.
For Q3.
They're reporting revenue from operations,
Okay.
301.38 crore rupees.
Wow. That's
That's a big jump, 57%.
57%.
Yeah, year over year compared to last year, same quarter.
Wow. Okay.
And even more dramatic, you want to talk about dramatic, the PAT
Profit after tax.
soaring
Oh,
to 160.04 crore rupees.
Okay.
Now remember, this comes after a loss
Oh, wow.
in Q3 of the previous fiscal year, 5.35 crore rupees.
Wow. That's a huge turnaround.
It's a huge turnaround.
Their 9-month performance is kind of telling the same story, though.
Absolutely.
821.33 crore rupees in revenue from operations.
Yeah.
And a healthy PAT.
Healthy.
424.58 crore rupees.
It's not just a one-quarter thing.
That's a chart.
A trend of growth and profitability.
Yeah, I think to understand this, we got to look at the profitability margins.
Absolutely. Let's go deeper.
Okay.
MCX, they're boasting a 67% EBITDA margin
Okay.
and a 49% PAT margin.
For the quarter.
For the quarter.
Okay.
Now, for those who might not be super familiar with these terms, EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Okay.
It's basically how profitable are their operations.
Okay. Makes sense.
And PAT margin. That's the profit percentage after all the expenses and taxes are paid.
So high margins mean they're running a tight ship.
They're running a tight ship and bringing in healthy profits.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's look at what's driving all this success.
Okay.
One big trend, the surge in options trading.
Yeah.
Average daily turnover, ADT for options, it's skyrocketed.
Really?
124% year over year.
Why this sudden, options frenzy? This seems like a pretty big shift.
Yeah, there are a couple things at play, I think.
Okay.
First, we've seen a lot more retail investors in India.
Yeah.
A lot of these new investors, they're attracted to options because of, well, potentially higher returns.
Higher risk, though.
Higher risk, of course.
Yeah.
Second, MCX has really been pushing options trading.
Yeah.
They've introduced new contracts and educational stuff.
So they're not just riding the wave, they're making the wave.
Yeah. They're anticipating and catering to that demand.
Uh-huh.
Smart move.
Speaking of what's driving this, futures contracts.
Yes.
Can't forget about those.
Yeah, can't be forgotten.
The ADT for futures saw a respectable 33% jump.
Yeah.
So even with all the options excitement, the futures market, it's still strong.
Absolutely. And this really highlights MCX's strength.
Okay.
They dominate in both.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Shows you their market leadership across different trading styles.
They seem to know what traders want, no matter what they're using.
Right.
But it can't just be trading activity alone.
Right. What about the actual commodities?
Yeah, what about the commodities?
What's driving that revenue growth?
Yeah, what about that?
Well, let's break it down. Bullion,
Okay.
especially gold,
Yeah.
and energy commodities. Those are the big hitters for MCX.
So the classics, still king.
Galactics.
It makes sense, though.
It does.
India,
It-
gold, and then energy. Everyone needs energy.
Everyone needs energy.
But I do wonder about this concentration risk, though.
Right, right.
What if these markets take a downturn?
What happens to MCX then?
Yeah,
It is like putting all your eggs in one basket.
exactly.
That's it.
So let's see how they're addressing that,
Let's see what they're doing.
because it's a complex market.
It's a dynamic market.
It's a dynamic market.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
So it sounds like they know they need to branch out.
They do. It's a multi-pronged approach, I'd say.
Okay.
Product expansion is definitely key for them.
Okay.
We see them looking at new commodities, different kinds of contracts.
Right.
Like they've already got those mini contracts for crude oil and natural gas.
Yeah.
So now traders with less capital can get
It's
involved.
a good way to get new people in.
Exactly.
People who might have been intimidated before.
Yeah.
Increases trading volume, maybe liquidity too.
That's the idea.
And I saw they're even exploring electricity derivatives and a coal exchange.
They are.
That's interesting.
But what's really fascinating to me are those series contracts they mentioned.
Yeah.
A little complex, but imagine a farmer
Okay.
locking in the price of their wheat, the whole harvest,
For the whole year.
for a whole year, one contract.
That would be huge.
It would be.
For producers especially, that price certainty.
Reduces their risk. That's what they're aiming for.
I don't see a launch date yet, though.
No, not yet.
But they're thinking ahead.
They are definitely trying to anticipate.
Oh, the market's going to change.
Absolutely.
But it's not easy, though, right?
No, not at all.
Putting these new ideas into practice.
There are hurdles, for sure.
Especially in a regulated market like India.
Oh, absolutely.
Regulatory challenges, technological challenges.
Right.
Like with those series contracts.
Yeah.
That's a whole different way of structuring things.
Fundamental shifts.
They'd have to work really closely with the regulators
With SEBI, yeah.
to make sure everything is transparent, fair.
No unnecessary risks.
Right, exactly. It's like a balancing act.
It is.
Pushing innovation, but also keeping things stable.
Stability's key.
You mentioned their good delivery program before.
I did.
What is that exactly?
Well, you see, a lot of commodity exchanges, they mainly focus on financial transactions.
Nope.
Just buying and selling contracts, not actually dealing with the physical commodities.
Okay.
MCX is different.
Okay.
Their good delivery program.
Yeah.
It lets domestic refiners directly participate in deliveries.
So they're not just trading on paper, they're in the physical supply chain.
Exactly.
Seems like a really important difference.
It is. It bridges that gap
Yeah.
between the financial world and the real physical commodities.
Yeah.
It's not just speculation.
They don't operate in a vacuum, right?
No, not at all.
What are some of the bigger economic factors that could impact them?
So many things.
Yeah.
Global demand for commodities, especially things like gold.
Okay.
That tends to go up during economic uncertainty.
Makes sense.
Directly affects their volumes. The price of oil,
Okay.
huge factor, obviously.
Yeah.
OPEC, global economic forecasts.
Right.
All of that plays a role,
And government policy in India,
of course.
anything that affects commodity derivatives,
Directly affects MCX.
they have to be on their toes, constantly adapting.
Absolutely. Anticipating, navigating.
I saw in their investor presentation, they've got all these growth drivers.
They do. Very ambitious.
They want to attract even more participants.
They're not just sitting still.
What stood out to you?
Their focus on technology.
Okay.
Remember how they talked about mobile trading?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Okay.
It means they're really embracing digital innovation.
They're making it easier for everyone to get involved.
Democratizing. Yeah,
And they're streamlining their own operations.
they are.
They've reduced the tender period for those base metal contracts.
They have made the whole process more efficient.
Even small changes like that, it all adds up.
It does. Affects participation and liquidity.
It's the attention to detail.
Operational excellence.
Exactly. That's what sets them apart.
Absolutely.
They're also going after institutional investors,
Big time.
mutual funds, portfolio managers,
Smart move.
tapping into a lot of capital there.
And expertise.
But those investors, they're not easy to win over.
No, they're sophisticated.
What kind of things might they be worried about with MCX?
Regulatory changes.
Okay.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
The Indian government is very involved.
Okay.
Any new regulations could change MCX's whole business model.
So it's that balancing act again,
It is.
innovation and stability,
Right.
and the volatility of commodities, right?
Of course. You can't forget about that.
Gold, oil, agriculture,
It can swing wildly.
and that affects their revenue, their volume.
Directly.
It's not a risk-free investment.
No, not at all.
Their success is tied to those underlying commodities.
Absolutely.
But for some investors, that risk is part of the appeal.
Right.
Commodities are essential, and this market, it can be exciting.
And potentially very rewarding.
You've given us a really great overview of MCX,
I've tried.
their performance, their strategy.
Yeah.
But what about the earnings call transcript
Yes.
and the Q&A with the analysts?
Right.
Were there any little clues in there that stood out to you?
There were a few things. Management kept talking about operational excellence.
Okay.
Like, they're really focused on improving the technology,
Yeah.
streamlining processes, making sure their risk management is top-notch.
So they're not getting complacent.
Not at all. No resting on their laurels.
And it's not just about protecting what they already have?
No.
It seems like they really want to get more retail investors involved.
Yeah, they see the potential there.
Okay.
Empowering individual investors to get into commodities.
So they're not just going after those big institutions.
Right.
They want to build a market that's good for everyone.
A broader market, more inclusive.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a long-term strategy.
Building a sustainable ecosystem. But they're not naive about the challenges.
No, they know there are risks.
They mentioned that concentration risk with bullion and energy.
They did.
And they want investors to know they're working on it.
That they're diversifying.
And they gave us some specific examples.
They did, which is important.
Reviving the metal index.
Yeah.
Options on the bullion index. Looking at new things like electricity.
It's not just talk, it's action.
Exactly.
I was impressed with how they talked about the competition.
Okay.
And the regulations.
They're not pretending it's easy.
No, they're facing it head on.
That's a good sign.
It is. Shows they're well managed.
It's a really interesting picture.
It is.
Big ambitions, but careful planning.
Right.
Innovation, but compliance, too.
It's a balancing act.
We've talked a lot about the business, but what about the people?
The human element.
The leadership?
It's easy to forget about them with all the numbers and strategies.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's people who make a company successful. If you look at their board, their management team,
Okay.
you see financial experts, industry veterans, people who know technology.
It's a good mix.
A well-rounded group.
And they've got a new MD and CEO, right?
They do. Pravina Rai.
She comes from the financial services world.
She does. Lots of experience.
I think her appointment shows they're serious about innovation.
Growth, too.
She's got a great reputation.
Digital transformation, building partnerships.
And if you listen to her on the earnings call,
yeah,
she's not afraid of the challenges.
Competition, regulations.
She seems ready for it all.
Her leadership is going to be crucial.
I think so, too.
They've got a strong foundation.
But the market is changing so fast.
It's going to be interesting to see how she uses her experience
to keep MCX on top.
It's a pivotal moment for them.
Yeah, huge potential.
But lots of uncertainty, too.
That's what makes this so interesting, though.
It is, definitely.
MCX's story, it tells us about the Indian economy.
Yeah.
How commodity markets are changing.
The intersection of finance, technology, global trade.
It's a lot.
It is, but it's fascinating.
Why should our listener care about all of this?
Well, commodities affect all of us.
Yeah.
The price of food, the cost of energy.
Yeah.
MCX is at the center of that.
Okay.
They're helping to determine prices.
Okay.
They're allowing people to manage risk.
Right.
Connecting buyers and sellers across India.
Yeah.
How well they're doing, it tells us about the economy.
It's a good indicator.
And the way they're trying to grow, it shows what businesses and consumers need.
If you understand MCX...
You understand India.
And for investors,
yeah,
they're the leader.
They are.
In a market that's growing.
And they're innovating, expanding.
The compelling case.
It is, but do your research.
Yeah, always.
Commodities are risky.
Absolutely.
But MCX, their story is worth looking into.
It's a story about ambition.
And
India's rise.
Definitely.
Before we finish up,
yeah,
one last thing. Something that's been kind of a theme throughout this whole deep dive.
I'm listening.
We're seeing a bigger trend here.
Okay.
Finance and the real world of commodities are getting closer.
How so?
Look at MCX.
Okay.
Deliveries, the Good Delivery Program, these series contracts.
Right.
It's all connected.
Interesting.
How is this going to change things?
Big question.
What role will commodity exchanges play?
It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Commodities aren't just numbers on a screen.
Oh.
They're the things we need, the things that make our economies work.
They are the foundation.
Exactly.
Food, energy, materials.
It all comes back to commodities.
It does.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive.
I hope so.
Into MCX.
A fascinating company.
And the world of commodities.
It's a complex world.
Keep exploring. Keep asking questions.
Who knows what you'll find?
That's the fun part.
It is. The deep dive is about asking better questions.
Exactly.
Not just finding answers.
On that note, we'll let you continue your own exploration.
Happy digging.
Thanks for joining us.